In the Advanced Dungeons & Dragons campaign setting Planescape, we, the players of the game, are introduced to the city of Sigil, the hub of all planes where anyone can find anything for the right price. This place is a veritable cornucopia of weird folk from all over the universe, and it is in this weird, volatile, and veritable hive of scum and villainy that we are first introduced to the race known as Tieflings. Described as the orphans of the plains, Tieflings are a race of what would be human or human-adjacent fellows who, long in their ancestry, had a family member make some kind of pact with a demonic entity, ostensibly to gain some kind of power. However, this cursed their bloodline, and now it's manifesting with you, dear Tiefling, and your weirdly colored skin, horns, eyes, tail. Nobody would mistake you for a human either, and because of your obviously demonic ancestry, it's pretty commonplace to simply paint all of your kind with a kind of wide brush and distrust all Tieflings just in general. I mean, after all, who knows if they're gonna just flip out and kill everyone with their demonic powers that everyone is sure they are hiding. In 5th edition canon, Tieflings trace their lineage back to Asmodeus, the demon king of hell. It stands to reason that people would be less trusting of them, but, I mean, hey, everyone's got a black sheep in the family, am I right? So, you want to be a Tiefling, then? Well, what kind of characters are Tieflings good at being? Let's take a look at your Tiefling racial qualities, and then work outwards from there. Tieflings start out with a pretty solid bonus to their intelligence and their charisma. Intelligence goes up by 1, and charisma goes up by 2. So what classes like both of those stats? Well, the classic choice for a Tiefling is a Warlock. So classic, in fact, that statistically most of the Tiefling characters that are made using the official Dungeons & Dragons character generator on D&D Beyond are Tiefling Warlocks. It makes sense lore-wise as well. I mean, obviously your bloodline is tied to a fiend, and Warlocks gain their powers from a pact made with a greater entity, like a fiend, so your bloodline's connection with Asmodeus just manifests in your having made a pact with him to gain more power, just like your ancestors did. Other strong choices for charisma-based characters are paladins, rogues, and sorcerers. So let's see what other kind of stuff Tieflings get along the way, and then try to supplement those racial abilities with class abilities as well. A level 1 Tiefling ability is Hellish Resistance, which gives you resistance to fire damage. This is great for up-close and personal spellcasters who like to drop fireballs and burning hands a lot, and it's also great for barbarians and fighters who know to take out the mages first because of their sheer destructive power. Reducing any and all fire damage by half is pretty good. Tieflings also gain abilities as they progress in character level as well. At level 1, they automatically know the Thaumaturgy cantrip, which is essentially the magic of plot convenience, and just kind of minor assistance stuff. Once they hit level 3, they get one use of the Hellish Rebuke spell, which is a sort of reaction spell that takes place when you are hit with an attack, and it blasts your attacker with a bunch of fire. At level 5, they can also invoke magical darkness once per day. The ability to blast an enemy with a reactive spell, plus the resistance to fire and the high charisma, leads itself to the idea of a kind of gladiator-type character, or a character who inspires the others in his party while in the fight himself. A perfect archetype for this is the entertainer background, using the gladiator variant. This puts your character as a sort of famous pit fighter who inspires their audiences and allies with their flashy combat and their battle cries. Think of this like a professional wrestler nowadays, a sort of perfect representation of hyping up a crowd before a fight, using their ego and their characteristic sayings and poses to get the blood really running and the adrenaline flowing. The variant background also allows you to switch your instrument proficiency with a unique and flashy but inexpensive weapon, so why not take something cool like a whip? I mean, sure, it only does 1d4 damage, but it's finesse, and it has reach. Or we can look back into the 3rd edition books and take a choice of an exotic weapon from the Arms and Equipment Guide, and pick up something like the Claw Bracer, which is a sort of like wrist-mounted set of blades that extend an extra 4 inches or so from the knuckles, that allows the wielder to hold other items in their hands, cast magic with somatic components, and never be disarmed of this item since it's buckled to their stupid hand. In 3rd edition, this weapon deals 1d4 slashing damage with a critical range of 19 to 20. Now, since there's no way to reflect the improved critical range in 5th edition anymore, that gets removed from it, so it becomes a significantly cheaper item, in my opinion at least. You'd have to make sure with your GM, of course, but it would make sense as a sort of cheap exotic weapon, and it's super flashy as well. So you could have your claws on one hand, and then using that hand also have like a club or a whip or some other thing too. And I think that would be super cool for your pit fighter character. So with this background, why not look into the barbarian class? A sort of demon-blooded, slightly magical fighter with resistance to fire and, while raging, resistance to most other damage as well? A popular fighter who everyone always wants to try to take down, but no one ever really can. That sounds like a pretty cool character idea for me. You'd have plenty good time going out with your adventuring party and fist-fighting to death some of the monsters that come out and try to screw with you. So following this build, you'd put your highest score into Strength, your next into Constitution, and then the rest you kinda just go as you like. Your +2 base Charisma will help in intimidating your opponents, negotiating for higher pay for a job, and the like there, and your slightly higher Intelligence will help with finding information and searching for things. This can probably actually be your dump stat, often like it is with most barbarians, and that +1 that you get from being a Tiefling may actually help to balance it out and not be so dumpy. The obvious choice to take here is Path of the Berserker, which is sort of reflective of the thrill of the fight and the desire to continue to dominate your opponents. The damage reduction from your rage plus the armor class bonus from unarmored defense will do you super good in a close quarters fight, plus your ability to punish anyone who hits you in a fight with your hellish rebuke will never not come in handy. Some good feats to choose with this build might be dual wielder to get an extra AC bonus with your second weapon if you've got one, grappler, which lends itself to being really nice in very close combat situations. There's mage slayer, which helps you to do exactly that. There's Savage Attacker, which allows you to reroll your damage dice once per turn. Once per turn? God, that's so good. This character, it becomes a sort of renowned gladiator fighter, famous in fighting circles and with awards for excellence in the sport of beating the tar out of other people. Your tiefling nature sort of becomes part of the charm for your character. You might even start taking on stage names that reflect your fiendish nature and your penchant for winning fights. Presto! You've got a heroic Tiefling. Let's consider an alternate build for the Tiefling, though, one that is less thought about. A sort of high charisma and high intelligence lends well to being a leader of sorts, one who can sort of take control of a situation, one who can direct the flow of battle, one who can impose a threatening and regal presence inspired by a divine aura that surrounds them. I am talking paladin. But Vincent, you might say, how can a Tiefling be a paladin? Well, shut up. 5th edition allows you to do whatever you want now. Paladins sort of are like a paragon-type character. They used to be required back in 3rd edition to be lawful good, and they would lose their powers if they strayed too far from the teachings or the path of the deity that they followed, who was always some lawful good BS like Heronius or someone. There was even like a high-level spell on the divine list called Atonement, which the erstwhile sort of fallen paladin would have to get cast on them to get their paladin powers back should they have crossed their god somehow. But these days, in 5th edition, it's really not so good, it's not so strict. You don't have to be lawful good, you don't even really technically have to be good at all, you just have to be dedicated to the strong cause that you choose. Paladins get the ability to sense undead, fiends, and celestials a few times per long rest, which sort of parallels the old ability that they had back in 3rd edition for Detect Evil. They don't really have that now, but they can tell whether there's an undead or a fiend or something nearby, and I guess that's kind of close enough, considering Detect Evil was sort of nebulous at best. Anyway, they also retain their Lay on Hands ability that gives them a pool of 5 times their paladin level in HP to use for healing wounds. Unlike the Cleric ability, though, that we talked about in a previous thing, Paladins can use these points to cure diseases and neutralize poisons. That's a nice up. You get to choose a fighting style at level 2, akin to the kind that fighters get, as well as start to learn spells from the divine list like a cleric would. So already we're seeing elements of the fighter and the cleric put together there. It's a great frontline character in the making, and you'll soon see why. So let's start, of course, with your highest score in Charisma, and then the next score should go into Strength, so that you can bash heads with your weapons better. After that, your Tiefling bonus to Intelligence will go well with the Religion skill, which you will most certainly pick, and you'll want a decent Constitution as well, actually possibly more than the Intelligence that you get. I guess, honestly, the Tiefling Intelligence bonus doesn't really fit super well into either of the two classes that I'm talking about, but the Charisma bonus does. You have a few choices for the Sacred Oath that you can choose at level 3, and I recommend that you choose the Oath of Vengeance. I mean, sure, the Oath of Devotion is neat because it gives you the Channel Divinity ability Sacred Weapon, which adds your Charisma bonus to attack rolls, which is an easy +4 or 5 at very early levels, which is insanely good. And it also gives you the Aura of Devotion ability that prevents your allies from being charmed. I mean, sure, the Oath of the Ancients is amazing because, among other things, Evelyn from Dice Camera Action has this oath, and she's the purest and best character that a paladin has ever been ever, but also it gives you an aura that makes everyone resistant to spell damage. But you're looking for the sort of charisma, inspiring leader, like scary cool type. You want someone who can strike fear into the hearts of anything, not just the undead. You want the Oath of Vengeance, with its ability to cause one creature, not just the undead, or anything really, to flee for its life. It's like a turn ability for one creature that you choose. It's got its superior mobility to close foes in when they think they can escape from you. Frick, at level 20 you literally turn into what they term an Avenging Angel. That's right, an actual, literal angel with wings. So your Tiefling self, with your ties back to the demon Asmodeus, can manifest this sort of Avenging Angel property by paralleling the fallen angel trope of the Christian god Lucifer. I guess he's not really a god. The Christian semi-deity Lucifer, who was the most beautiful angel. Thanks to this convenient little tie-in, you can appear as this gorgeously perfect angel wreathed in flame, with your wings billowing behind you and your horns glinting in the fire. It would be awesome. Vanilla paladin abilities like Aura of Protection and Aura of Courage make your paladin the definite and succinct leader of the group, and with a high charisma, you call the shots, and your party follows. Highly recommended, therefore, is the feat Inspiring Leader, which you should absolutely take at level 4. It gives your abilities a bunch of free temporary hit points, so long as you spend 10 minutes to make this sort of rousing, inspiring speech beforehand to get their blood flowing and their swords hot. Then you wade into this combat, and the first time somebody in the other side hits you, and you bathe them in flame with your Hellish Rebuke ability, everyone on the other side is going to be like, oh, maybe we done picked the wrong people to mess with. And then, once you're level 5, that thing that gets bathed in flame suddenly is now wreathed in darkness and everything around it is completely unseeable as well. Just the idea that your knight, your upright and righteous person, is also a little demonic will scare the crap out of your foes. You become the fiery knight, known for their courage and resolve, the demon of the battlefield. By the time you become well known, you'll likely have followers, potential initiates to your order, flocking to meet you. You'll have temples to your deity speaking your praises, and towns will know your name by the deeds that you work. You will be a hero. So anyway, what kind of tieflings have you played that worked out well? Have you tried a combination and it just kind of didn't end up working out? What about one that I didn't say that you think is better? Tell me in the comments. You can also drop by the Discord channel, there's a link in the description, and go to the sub-channel devoted specifically to this series, Character Suggestions, to discuss and make suggestions for what you'd like to see me explore next. I think the next video that we're going to do is going to talk about a few of the new subclasses in the Xanathar's Guide to Everything book that just recently came out, and compare them with existing subclasses in the Player's Handbook, and some other official sources as well. Look out also in the future for a custom homebrew class from me as well. I'll be releasing it as soon as it's finished. Been working on it for a little while, and I've just been too sad to finish working on it. That's why this sort of video has taken so long. I've just been kind of in a bad place, and I couldn't really force myself to work on anything until tonight when I bought myself a box of milk tea and said, we're gonna bloody finish this tonight. So, that's where we are for that one. The two character archetypes that I talked about here will show up as a post on my Patreon page, where I will put together a level 10 instance of both of them to sort of get a good look at their possible mid-game possibilities. Possible possibilities? Come on, Vincent, you've got better words than that. Those will be on a free post, though, of course. You don't have to be a patron to get your hands on those things. However, if you appreciate these videos and the sort of in-depth look at character combinations and character types and class types, however, please do consider becoming a supporter there. I'd super appreciate it. It would mean a lot to me, and I'd be one step closer to becoming independent from my normal, terrible, soul-crushing job. Thank you guys so much, and as always, friends, happy rolling.